All right, what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? We are back with you. This is Callings and Careers with my great co host here. And we want to say welcome to Callings and Careers. We're honored that you all are tuned in with us today on multiple platforms. We are on YouTube and LinkedIn and I was going to say Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. All of those places. But we'd love to have you come in, share this live with folks in your ecosystem, those that follow you. I think that they will benefit from it. And we're honored that you are with us. As I mentioned, this is Callings and Careers, and our commitment, our goal is to help you discover your calling and then develop in your career. Jessica and I both felt some push, some pull to help individuals of faith to not feel like they have to turn their faith off when they go into the workplace, but in fact, you can turn your faith up in the workplace. And our commitment is to have Christ-centered career coaching conversations in a way that is fruitful and that is helpful and that you can flourish in your faith in the workplace.
Absolutely.
Jessica, what's up?
I am excited. I am thrilled. Hey there to all of the members of Cubicle Country out there that are listening to Callings and Careers. I'm Jessica Canty. I am your Life and Career Strategist. I love helping melanin millennial moms who want high achieving careers. So when we talk about careers, I can get excited. That's why I got my notes next to me so I can stay focused because I get excited about talking about careers.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, how's it going?
Yep. And you can follow Jessica right there. Her website is on the screen, Jessica Canty, no E, .com. Jessica Canty, no E.com. You can connect with me right here at ChristopherJHarris.com. And both of our names are both very active on social media as well, on many platforms. So you can find us on Pinterest. You can find us on Threads. You can find us on Snapchat. Well, you won't be able to find me. I'm on Snapchat, but I don't use it. I don't know. Do you use your Snapchat, Jessica?
I'd have to ask my teenager even know how to locate Snapchat. So no, I don't use Snapchat. But if there's an internet connection somewhere, if you type in my name, you're likely to find either one of us. If you got an internet connection, you're good.
The old school phrase was Google me.
Now you don't even. It's funny to say that's old school though. Just to Google somebody, at this point, now you can find them on multiple platforms. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited, Jessica. We are jumping into, I think, a very real and needed conversation today as we've continued to kind of navigate our discussions over the last, few months, and particularly some of the topics that we've had. We've had some guests that have come in as well this year. So we've talked about interviewing this year. We've talked about finances this year. We've talked about being emotionally healthy this year, all those kinds of things. We did a couple sessions on personality assessments and how to make sure that those things are in place. And so now we jump into a very rich topic, and that is transferable skills. And so I'm excited about what we'll glean today from your notes and how we'll kind of walk through this. So first of all, let's define it. Let's define transferable skills. And then let's talk about maybe why it's important. And then I know you've got some meat for us today. Some people have called transferable skills portable skills, and so that's one way to maybe define it in a way that they're portable. These are skills that you can take from job to job, or industry to industry, or space to space. They are skills that you need, whether in the workplace or at home, that kind of thing. So they're portable. They're necessary and needed in different spheres and different areas.
Absolutely. And it's important to know and have a conversation about your own personal transferable skills because of the job market. I just taught a course this week on the multi-generational workforce. And so we're seeing 3 or 4 different generations in the workspace. So there's now more competition. So you have to know how your skills translate. It's also because a lot more people now are not staying in one particular job long or another days, or, you stay there you retire from a job for 30 years. Most people are going from different industries industries, different professions, different jobs. And so it's important to know what those transferable skills are, because if you don't, it makes it harder to find a job. It makes it easier to leave money on the table. And it also makes it easier to be frustrated because you don't
Mm,
feel like you're capable. You don't feel like you're skilled. And imposter syndrome can easily creep in if you don't know your unique transferable skills.
that's so good. That's so good. That's so good. Um, so I'm sure that there have been times where you've seen someone that did not have those portable skills and
Mhm.
probably blamed their lack of influence or success or upward mobility on something else. Talk a little bit about that, maybe.
Oh, absolutely. It's well, I just can't get past the AI tracker. So they don't, because they don't know their, even to get their foot in the door for an interview, it's like I can't, no one is responding. I keep getting rejection emails. And so if you don't know your transferable skills, you can't even get your foot in the door. I've seen it over and over again when people get passed up for promotion or they wind up training their replacement. And that's something I'm seeing a lot lately in my with my clients, is that people are training the replacement because there's so many layoffs happening. And so a lot of times people are thinking, well, it's either it's me or this the company, and not really realizing that there's a strategy and a method to be able to sort of fortify and protect us from all of those icky things that are happening in the job market right now.
That's so good. So good. So you're going to you're the what did I say last time? I forgot the exact phrase because I said queen of alliteration, but I said something that you like. I need to write that down and put that on my resume. I can't remember.
I don't even remember, but I got to go back and definitely write that down because that's a transferable skill for mine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Uh-huh.
you have three E's for
Absolutely.
transferable skills today. So let's go ahead and jump into those because I have a feeling our time is probably going to get away from us as it always does.
Absolutely. So, before you are diving into these three E's, I want to make sure you have all your tools prepared in order to do this, because this is going to be a work. This is going to be a work. And I promise you, if you do this work, you do this front loading work, it makes the whole job looking process, job hunting process, promotion process that's much more streamlined. You want to create a command center. And in that command center, and I'm a paper and pen kind of girl, that's why I got my planner sitting next to me, but you want to have markers, posters, your resumes, your certificates. Definitely, you want to have time set aside. And if you listen to our previous two episodes, you want to pull out those personality assessments. So you want to have all of those things with you. This is going to decrease the frustration because this is a work. It can be tedious, but if you gather all these tools, it will make this process more streamlined. So that's the first thing. You want to make sure that you, in fact, have all of your tools and the time. This is not going to be something that you're going to get done in 20 minutes. This may be a several week process. But if you set aside the time, it will definitely decrease your frustration. So that's the first thing. Have your tools.
Yeah.
Okay, so the three E's of transferable skills. What you're going to do is take those markers and take the pens or the colorful. I like the markers and the poster boards. Make it look attractive. So it's something that you want to engage with, and you want to take at least three posters, and you're going to write down the titles that I'm telling you on top of each of these, and then I'm going to tell you exactly what to put underneath there to make that a much easier, a more streamlined process for you. Okay, so
That's
let's
good.
jump into that. So your
Oh,
very
oh,
first, oh, go ahead,
Jessica,
go
hold
right
on,
ahead.
because I'm curious. Like, so I want, how do I want to say this? So I feel like we want to make this um, gender reachable for everybody, right? Because a little way you just described that, I could see some fellas being like, oh, I ain't doing that.
Completely understand. So if you're not the person that's what likes to make things pretty, I am a girl. I love all things pretty. I'm a make it razzle dazzle. I'm gonna have some stickers, some glitter, and all that good stuff on it. If that's not you, that's perfectly fine. You could definitely do this. If you're more a tech person, you can do it online. If you're not much of a tech person and you don't really like the poster board as well, whiteboard. I have at least two whiteboards in my home. So I want you to get the visual for it, because a lot of times people are trying to do this across across, having multiple tabs open, and that can be frustrating. So you need to have a space that's visual that you can consistently come back, because as you're doing this activity, you're going to see that things are going to come up for you. What you think about on Monday, you're going to ask something by Friday. So as long as it's in a central space, and it's something that you can consistently look at. I don't have an app to suggest for this. So if you are a tech person, you can find an app if you want to, like a notes app or something of that nature. But I just like the idea of it being very visual in a space you're going to see on a regular basis.
Yep, that's good. There is probably one app that this would work on, and that's probably Evernote might be a good one that you could use. So just want to mention that one maybe.
I'm not a techie, so I'm gonna go with your suggestion. I'm a paper and pen kind of person. All I got to worry about is whether or not I have enough paper and there's ink in my pen. So
I love it. I love it.
So let's dive into those 3 E's. The very first E is education. Now, I should mention here that some of the things I'm saying may run counterintuitive to what you think the title means. So you definitely want to slow down, hit this on a replay, and come back to it, because I'm telling it from a different perspective, because I've seen resumes over and over again, and people are not highlighting this. I've interviewed people over and over again, and people don't think about it from this perspective. But if you think about it from this perspective, it's easy to market yourself. So the very first thing you want to talk about when you talk about education are your paid experiences, or the paid interactions that you've had. Most people think of education simply as the degrees that you have. And I'm all for writing your degrees down. So you want to make sure that you are thinking about your degrees, but I also want you to think about the jobs that you've had. The jobs that you have. I'm saying think all the way back to your teenage years, because people think transferable skills mean the last 10 years going on my resume. Yes, we want to make sure that the information that you're putting on your resume is relatable, is something that's actually going to relate to the job. But when I tell you that there's things that I now get paid for that I've been doing since I was a teenager, I wish somebody would have told me, go back to your teenage years. So you're thinking about your jobs. Like, even as funny as it may sound, babysitting prepared me to be a therapist. Babysitting prepared me to be a trainer, because I was able to make sure that I was thinking about my clients, making sure I was able to think about their mental health and well-being. So you want to go back and think about all the jobs that you've had. Go back and think about all the jobs you have. So on this education sheet, your jobs, your certifications, your degrees, and then your resume comparison. I'm going to stop here because I know I definitely want to give you some space for your wisdom around what your education looks like.
Yeah, there's a couple things I want to say, but I want to ask a clarifying question really fast. When you say resume comparison, what do you mean when you say resume comparison?
Okay, so when I talk about resume comparison, it's 2024, and there's so many different ways to create your resumes. And so most people are thinking about the aesthetics of the resume. They're thinking about the aesthetics. Like, do I do a QR code? Do I do a standalone landing page? All cute things. I definitely recommend you doing those things. But when I'm saying about your resume comparison is pull out all the resumes you've ever had, because if you're doing it well, you've tailored each resume to each job. Pull them all out. And this is again why you want to get all those things together with your tools already, and then start to line them up. Like, line them up from your very first resume to your current resume, if you have access to your first resume, so that you can begin to compare. Okay, I noticed that this job, I added an additional skill that wasn't from the previous resume because you worked at a different job, or I left off this particular skill, and maybe that's the reason why I didn't make it past AI and I didn't get the interview. So this is sort of what you want to do. You want to just kind of think back to your resume. Most of us probably have had a resume probably since like high school, college days. And depending on when you went to high school, college, you may not have a hard copy of it, but just kind of think back, if you can, mentally, what would have been on your resume.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think there's 2 things I'm thinking about, Jessica, as you kind of break this down. One, and both of these are going to probably, they may challenge people in some way. So I want to acknowledge that and name that on the front end of this. One is, as quiet as it's kept in some cases, depending on the industry or the job that you're in. Like, I know that we are in a space now where we have access to people getting different non-traditional degrees, right? So people can get an entire degree, bachelor's, master's, even doctorate, completely online, right? Never set foot on that campus, that kind of thing. And we've got all of these different kinds of institutions that are allowing people to get these degrees in non-traditional ways. I would say that sometimes, depending on the industry, the place that you got your paid education from matters, right? if you are going in, if you feel like you're getting degrees because you want to be an academician, or you want to be in some sort of teaching or education space, you may not want to go to a school that is what they call a farm school, where their goal is
Mhm.
just to get any online people into their program and then kind of go from there, even if they're accredited, because being accredited doesn't necessarily mean credible, right?
Oh,
uh,
absolutely, absolutely.
in that industry or in that space. I think that's really important to acknowledge. And so people really need to be thinking about, not just do I get more education and credentials, but am I getting the right credentials, and am I getting them from the right place? Because when I look at your resume, if I look at your resume and I'm trying to hire you for certain things, and I see all of your educational experience, and I know those schools. I don't want to name any because I'm not disparaging those schools in that way. But
Mhm.
again, where you get your degree matters, and so I think it's important for you to check with people that are already in that space that can speak to credibility on that. On the completely flip side of that, the second thing that I like to maybe mention, and I don't know if you saw this a couple of weeks ago. There's at least three, and they're not sponsoring this podcast yet, so I'm not going to call their company name. But they're multi-billion-dollar companies. Everybody would know who they are. These three companies in particular have done away with the college requirement for
Hmm.
hiring in their entire company. One of the
Mhm.
companies is one of the largest employers in the world. And so I even posted it on my social media, and I said, this is going to get interesting, because if these companies are saying now you don't even need a college education to do this, to me, it emphasizes the importance of having these transferable
Oh,
skills. Because if
absolutely.
everybody doesn't have the education, or you don't need the education, what's going to be the distinction from you being hireable or more qualified or more hireable than the next candidate down the road? You got to be able to prove your transferable skills. You got to be able to show evidence of that. So those are the two things I thought about as you were kind of breaking down this whole notion of education.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so glad you said that, because it goes back to a previous episode we did. Like, you've got to have your career executive board. And so your mentor and your sponsor are going to tell you, okay, this is something you want to mention, something you don't want to mention on your resume.
Yeah.
So if you haven't already, go check out that episode, because we break that down if you need that guidance. And to your point, I definitely see the through line. Sometimes it's about the name of the university, but it's also about, can you name the classes you've taken? So those are things that can really help as well, because it sort of shows what the university focuses on as well. So for instance, my graduate school, I'll mention it because I love them, HU. One of the things that was really important was that we came from the African American perspective. So if I'm working with an African American population, then that's going to be something that's going to be appealing to that particular employer. So you want to think about more, some of the class titles are in alignment with that requirement for a degree at that university. So absolutely, you want to kind of, if you think that your university is like, I don't know, Jessica, think more about the classes and the over, like, just go back and look at the syllabus too. So go back and look at the syllabus, because you can maybe able to highlight some of that information on your resume as well. Great point. Great
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I saw how you snuck your school in there real fast. I ain't mad at you. I'm not mad at you. Yeah.
Wonderful
Uh,
school. Wonderful school.
hey, I'm proud. I'm proud of all of my schools. I don't know if I should call them my, what like in a pat. I'm an alumnus of these schools. So what do I call them? My
Your alma
institutes of higher
maters.
learning.
Your alma
My alma
mater.
mater. My alma
Mhm,
mater. That's the phrase.
mhm.
That's what I was looking
Absolutely.
for. So I'm proud of all of my alma maters. They're doing the doggone thing.
And I only mentioned one of mine. I can get on my soapbox. They're both HBCUs. I'm a fan. I'm biased of HBCUs. But regardless of where you got your degree, whether it was community college, online, HBCUs, PWI, whatever the university was, School of the Hard Knocks, wherever you went to school, make sure you're able to highlight that on your resume. So again, the very first thing you want to do is your education. If you're following along, you're seeing that this is intense for each of the E's. So you might want to set aside the time, like maybe just one day for education if you have that time. I would say even 1 week. But go ahead, Christopher, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that
Mhm.
I think it's important for us to also name and acknowledge, and I sort of alluded to this in that point about the three companies that have made this change.
Mhm.
It is completely possible to be successful in today's environment without a formal 4-year degree. I want to
Oh,
name that, and I want to acknowledge that. Now, I'm an
mhm.
advocate of the 4-year degree, because of not just what you get in the classroom, but what you get in the college experience. But
Oh,
you
absolutely.
can be successful without it. However, if you choose not to go to that 2 or 4 year school, what I say to people is, what is your plan? Because
Mm-hmm.
most people that don't go, they also don't have a plan. And that
Mm-hmm.
becomes a problem. I think the 2 year, the 4 year school, by virtue of you being enrolled in those classes and in those think tanks and around that environment, they're forcing you to begin to think about having some sort of plan. So my
Absolutely.
conversation is, even if you're not going to do that, what is your plan? So that's the last thing I'll say about that piece.
Oh, absolutely. Because you do have to have a plan. I mean, our society has shifted. Actually, the pendulum is sort of swinging back. Like we used to be a society where you would learn a trade in high school, so at least you were set up for success, whether or not you got a degree. And then they
Yeah.
sort of took those programs out of schools, and so now it's like either you're going to, I mean, apprenticeships have kind of gone by the wayside. Internships, but you have to be in college to get that internship. And now I'm starting to see the with my daughter's generation in high school. Now they're starting to do more trades in high school because of that fact. And so it is
Yeah.
important to recognize if you're not going to do this, you want to make sure you get some type of trade, and that is your education. So absolutely, that will
That's
go
good.
under your
That's good.
education. And I mean,
That's good.
college is expensive. It's exorbitant, and so it's not for everybody unless you're gonna be a brain surgeon. If you're gonna be a brain surgeon, please get a degree. I don't want you to operate on my brain without a degree. And that's the only thing I'm like, okay, listen, you gotta have a degree for that one, okay? But I
Brain,
mean,
heart, foot, eyes.
listen, if
Uh,
you cut me open, you gotta have a degree, okay? That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm
if you
asking.
get ready to
I'm not
stick
even
me with
saying what
something,
school
you
you
need to
gotta
have
get
some
it
learning.
from. Say
Yeah.
again.
If you get ready to stick me with a needle, you need to have some learning.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Because I don't want to see oops on your face. That's not the time to see oops.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All
So
right.
your
So
first
number one is education.
Number one is education. Number two is experience. Is experience. Now, this
Mm.
one is a little bit different because a lot of times people like to go and look at their job descriptions and they copy and paste it on their resume. But that doesn't make you unique at all. If you're just copying and pasting a job description, if I use the same job description, what's the difference between you and I? So we're talking about your unique experience, your unique experiences. And this is where people really miss opportunities when it comes to transferable skills. You want to think
Yeah.
about your hobbies. You want to think about your community service and any conferences that you participated in. So when I say hobbies, like when you think about the things that you do on the weekend, what are things you can get lost in? What are some of the books that you will read? What are some of the podcasts you listen to? Because you are already building a certain level of expertise by endeavoring in them. Probably more than some college students were anyway, because you actually like doing it. So hobbies, community service, and conferences. And I say this because one of the things that I realized that got me a raise in my own particular career was the community service I did in college. I served as a
Mm.
student leader. I was a university queen, and I know that that was what set me up to be able to be in the classroom and training because I got that opportunity to try it on.
Mm.
Now, if I had left that off my resume, someone would have said, "Well, what training credentials do you have?" And I would never had the opportunity to. So go back and look at your hobbies. When I say community service, I'm talking about sororities and fraternities. I'm talking about at church. I'm talking about Girl Scout, Boy Scout. I'm talking about any of those things that you, even charity work. You want to make sure you go back and write all those things and what you learn from those things, because that's going to be a selling point that's going to make you different from someone who has the same degree or the same educational background.
All right. So Jessica, all right. So I love this list.
Okay.
Um, we got to unpack this conferences thing, because the other day you told your people, don't go to no conference.
Don't
Don't
go
you
no
go?
more. Don't go to no more. And I stand by it. 10 toes down. 10 toes down. You know why? Look, let me tell you something. Let me tell you why. Don't go to conferences thinking they're going to solve your problems. You got to have a plan when you leave that conference. Because over and
Mm.
over again, I hear my clients say to me, well, I'm going to go to this conference. I'm going to go to this singles conference, or I'm going to go to this realist. No, you just spend thousands of dollars to sit in a room, a cold room at that, and you're coming back and have no plan. So for
Mm.
me, what I want you to do is think about it is, what is the follow-up plan? Most conferences don't, unless you have a really great person who's orchestrated it. They don't have the plan of when you get home, how do you walk this out? So if you are planning to go to a conference, slow down and ask yourself, what does my coach say about this? What does my mentor say about this? Because you might be spending thousands of dollars just to go for 3 days and come back and have not learned anything at all.
That's good. That's
Mhm.
good. Yeah, and to that point, I agree with you in the
Mhm.
sense that people do need a strategy, a plan, be intentional about how they spend their dollars, what they spend their dollars on, and that kind of thing. I will say this. I think that there are some times where a part of the plan for the conference is to simply be in the environment, right? There's people at that conference that you're going to network and connect with. And so if there's opportunities for that to happen, then that's great. I host an in-person event in September every year that's called the Wisdom for Life Retreat. And as a part of that, one of the things that we've made the commitment to do is to invite people. They get an individual coaching session before they leave. And our goal is to give them, sort of like in the therapy world, y'all would call it a treatment plan. I'm not calling it that, but essentially, a strategy for what are the logical next steps that I can take that's not going to be overwhelming for me to be able to implement what I've given you. And we give everybody handouts and a USB drive with all the information, all that stuff. And the challenge then is not just do you have your plan of action, but then you also now can take these resources, these handouts, these notes that we taught from, and then implement this and then put it on repeat. Because nothing of credibility is really going to happen in your life of significance without you putting it on some level of repeat. You got to listen to that or hear that or read that stuff several times over to get the full understanding. So I just wanted to say that really fast and call attention to the fact that you was calling all these conferences out.
But you know what? That's yours because you definitely gave people that tailored experience I was talking about on that video. A lot of times conferences are not giving you that tailored experience. That's what they're designed to do. They're designed to be mass market. Like it's just everybody's going to learn this one little thing. Even the breakout sessions is a bunch of people learning the thing. But what about you specifically? So I like that you mentioned that that's something that you all offer. And I've been to a couple of good ones where it was like a 3-month incubator. So the conference was only one part of it. It was you had lessons beforehand, the conference, and then you had lessons afterwards. And so that was the experience. And if you don't have the plan of leaving it, I'm telling you. And I mean, I'm even talking about, and I hope that stepped on any toes, but even you're going to the women's retreat. By the time you get on the plane, you haven't even heard anything they said. You're thinking about unpacking. You're thinking about the next steps. And so you've really got to think about what am I going to do with this information when I leave? And if it's a good one, it can go on your resume.
That's so good. So good. So good. Yes. All right. So we're talking about transferable skills today. The first one is about education. You need to make sure that you're evaluating your education. Jessica, you talked about jobs you've had, paid education, credentials, that kind of thing. We just finished talking about experience, your unique experiences, hobbies, community service, conferences, or conference-like professional development learning that you've done and experienced. Because in some cases that could be webinars, online gatherings, that kind of thing. All right. So those are the first 2 E's. What's the third E, Jessica?
The third and final E is your endeavors. Your third and final E are your endeavors. So this is the space where you want us to really sit down and think about your aspirations, your awards, and your dream job. It's a little bit of an overlap from your education in terms of job descriptions, but I want you to think about job descriptions you actually want to work in, not in the ones you've already worked in, but what do you actually want to do? You want to do your first 2 E's first because that final E becomes that much more simple to market and prepare yourself to apply for if you've got the first 2 E's done. So if I'm looking at the job description of my dream job, I can already see that I've done that for the last 10 years. If I have my awards, I can already see how I'm innovative and any other candidate can't bring to the table what I'm bringing to the table. And so when I say your aspirations, you want to think about what your salary looks like based on all that experience you just did, all the education. You already know you're worth it. So that imposter syndrome, we're building up that scaffolding so you don't have that, and you could confidently market yourself in that particular interview. But again, you want to think about, where do I want to go? What are my aspirations? What awards have I won? What job descriptions sound like what I want to do? And what's my dream job? Like, what are the benefits? What's the type of day I want to have? Do I want it to be virtual, or do I need face-to-face interactions? This is really going to help you so you don't keep choosing jobs that frustrate you. Don't keep choosing a job that frustrates you. If you already know what you're worth and what you're pursuing, these are the things that will already help you to know I'm worth this. This is a skill I bring from each of the experiences and education that I have under my belt.
That's so good. That's so good. Let's unpack this last one a little bit more, because I feel like somebody may be hearing it and it may feel a little ambiguous a little bit, especially on the backdrop of hearing about the experience piece. So break down, maybe give a few more examples of some of the endeavors that people maybe should reach for, or some of the bullet
Absolutely.
points underneath this. And then I'm gonna remind you. I just typed it. I'm gonna remind you of a quote that you gave like a year and a half ago that I think ties into to what you're saying. So go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, over and over again, when I work with my clients, they can easily tell me what they don't want from a job. I don't like this
Mm,
previous boss. I don't like where this worked, and I don't like the salary. My team this. But when I ask them what they want, almost inevitably it gets quiet. I mean, I don't know, Jessica. I just don't want this. All right. So you need to sit down and ask yourself this, because if you can't align what you're already doing with what you want to do, you're already lost. You're already putting yourself in a space of being frustrated. So when I say awards, sit down and think about, were you ever given the title of the lead of a team? Were you ever given an award for how many community service hours you put in? Were you
mm.
ever, especially in ministry, a lot of times, people think, oh, that's just church stuff. It's not something that I can bring on over here. No, if you were the ministry head, write that down. What were the jobs that you had to do? That's something that was
If
awarded
you
to
were
you. You
a good
had,
ministry head,
if
if
you
you
were
were a
good.
good ministry,
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you were a good ministry head, absolutely. If you were that teen mom, and I'm biased because I am a Girl Scout, dance mom, all those things. And so when I think about the things I had to do for my daughter's recital, no one paid me for that, but I literally was helping with people, organizing the activity. These are the things that people, again, they don't think about as education. They don't think about experiences, but someone gifted you that opportunity to serve. And so even we're talking about our dream job, like, for those, let's just say you're starting off in your career, you're in college, what type of degree are you getting and what do you want to do with it? Because that's going to line up what conferences you go to. That's going to line up what classes you take. Don't just do what your advisor says. What is it that you want to do with that degree? So your aspirations. So do you want to retire by a certain age? That should be written down, because that's going to tell you, okay, I'm not going to choose a job that can't get me to that retirement. I'm already going to go to the table when it talks about benefits and say, this is what I need. What is it that you want? Like, okay, if I know for me, I keep mentioning my daughter, but my daughter will be a high school graduate in 2028. What do I want my career to look like when I don't have to keep shuttling her around? I want to know what that aspiration is. What's my dream job? I know most people say I don't dream about work. I got you. But if you could wake up and do what you love to do
yeah,
all the time, what would that look like? So that's what I mean. Like, those are the concrete examples. Go back and look at those things, because those are the things that often get overlooked.
yeah. There's two things that I'm thinking about on the backdrop of what you just said that I think is probably good or wise to add. First, so Jessica mentioned education experience endeavors, and I think that's a solid framework for anybody to
Mhm.
be able to navigate how to move forward, to begin to critically think about your transferable skills. One of the things that I think is important for you to consider underneath those three E's of education, experience, and endeavors is one, you've got to consider that you are going to be Googled when you are
Mhm.
applying for a job. So does so let me say this. Certain jobs will demand that you have some online presence.
Mhm.
If you don't have an online presence, that's going to be a red flag for some employers. What do you
Absolutely.
have to hide? Why are you hiding? Now, I'm not suggesting that you've got to be on every platform, but I am saying that if you are on a platform, um, does it reflect what you've written on paper?
Mhm.
So if you are, like right now, DEI is a big thing, right? Lots of people are getting certification and training DEI, that kind of thing, diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you are applying for DEI jobs, and I go to your social media, whether that's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever, and I don't see any diversity, right,
Mm.
on your platform,
Red
that's a
flags.
red flag for me, because that's saying that you're not living out what you say is valuable or important. And so I think
Mhm.
it's really important that there is some alignment. If on your resume you say that you have hobbies, and it is these three hobbies that you are saying are your transferable skills, and I can't see any evidence of those of your hobbies, right? Like if you say one of my hobbies is working out, and I see no working out videos, pictures, posts, nothing, that's going to be a
Uh-huh.
problem, right? So
Uh-huh.
there needs to be, I think, some authenticity to um, to what you're putting on paper and to kind of what you're navigating. The other thing I was going to say is, as you were talking, Jessica, I was thinking some people might be wondering, how do I list this on my resume? And I think maybe there are a couple category titles that I want to just maybe give somebody, and then you can kind of figure out functionally, each person can. And I think this is just my opinion. I think it is worth sometimes the investment dollars wise to invest in having either especially at a certain level, right? Depending on, like, if you're applying for C-suite jobs or jobs that demand a certain salary or a certain package, that kind of thing, for you to make the investment of $100, $200, whatever, to have them do your resume, construct your resume, edit your resume. My goodness, I can't tell you how many resumes I've seen that the person may be qualified, but I'm nervous because I see so many typos and grammar issues and all those kinds of things, and that's just a no-no, right? It shouldn't take place. So here's a couple, I think, categories to help you as you think about what Jessica listed. Maybe you put a section in your resume called unconventional experiences.
Ooh.
I know as a hiring manager, if I see a category that says unconventional experiences, and you've got 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 bullet points there, you better believe before I read the education, I'm going to that section right there. What are they talking about right here? What does this mean? Right? And then now you've got my interest peaked because I'm like, very few people are putting on their unconventional experiences, So I think that's that could be one. You could the title of this section could be life portfolio, or portfolio of living. Okay, what does that mean? And then you're breaking that down. So you got latitude and leeway on paper to define what you want this to mean. The last one that this is probably a little bit more traditional in that sense, or you could call it transferable experiences, transferable experiences, and then list some of those things down. I just wanted to offer those two thoughts: the social media piece, and then how would I list this on my resume if I wanted to list this on my resume? So just wanted to offer that. And I don't know if you agree with those or disagree with that, or what your thoughts are.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with it because a lot of people are getting frustrated that they're not getting interviews because they're using the same style of resume from 1956, 1986, 1996. And they're thinking about, I just have to write down, I have to highlight my employer instead of how I was as an employee. And that's what the hiring manager is looking about. Now, certain industries, of course, their employer can seem very attractive to the HR person or the hiring recruiter. But if you can work for a reputable company, but if all you put on your resume is that you staple papers for them, they're going to see that. So they're going to see that that's the thing that you're trying to do, flash and fluff, rather than telling them what those transferable skills are. And I mean, there's so many different styles of resumes out there, depending on if you're applying for a government position, a combination resume, if you have to do a CV. So all of these things will make, no matter what type of resume format you're going to do, that much easier, that much more streamlined for you in order to be able to highlight that. So I definitely like those titles because it helps people to start thinking about it from that perspective, especially those who may have had work gaps. I like those titles, especially for those who've had work gaps. Like if you were a stay-at-home mom or you were a caregiver, or college students, because sometimes that can be against them, or you switched professions. So if you have work gaps, those titles will be incredibly important to highlight your skills.
I hadn't even thought about the work gaps, but that's significant for you to acknowledge that and say that. So that's really good. Listen, I hope y'all that this was. I mean, it was a lot of punch in a short amount of time, and I think if you take this and you apply this, you'll see the significance that these things will separate you from the pack. I'm sure Jessica will agree with this as well. If I've got a stack of resumes for one position, like one of the last positions that we hired for, Jessica, we had, I don't know, close to 600 people apply for the job. So, I mean, at some point there was 600 resumes that I had to go through, right, that we had to walk through. So you can tell pretty quickly the ones that are even, no, maybe, definitely look at, right? And that's really the three categories.
Yeah.
What you want on paper and on social media is present yourself in a way that at least you get into the yes or the maybe pile. You don't want to end up in the no pile, right? And so if you get into the yes or the maybe pile, the yes pile will definitely get more scrutiny. The maybe pile will get a little bit more of a look and a glance. The no pile ain't even gonna get that. They're gonna be like, you know what, you're not even remotely qualified. Da, da, da. And out of 600 resumes, I would say, or whatever the percentage might be. Well, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that when you look at the total number of people that apply for a job, about 80% of the people that apply not qualified, about 10% might be qualified, and then only about 5% actually maybe fit the bill. So then you got to go through the 80 even to get to the 5% or whatever. Did that add up to 100? So maybe 15. Yeah. So this was amazing. This was really good. Anything else you want to add to this at all?
You can do it. You can do it. I mean, the blueprint is here for you. All you have to do is listen to today's message and go back to some of those previous podcast episodes, because we literally give you all collegiate level courses on how to make sure that you get the job, make sure that you feel confident in doing it. Just remember that you can do it. Just apply it.
We need to apply to the organization that does continuing education, because this stuff right here is be like next level. You see what I'm saying?
Listen, I know about them CEUs and I know about all those things. Absolutely. Because I mean, I've sat in some classes. I'm like, you can get a CEU for this class, but this podcast is definitely CEU worthy.
Yeah. Here's the quote that you gave a couple years ago, Jessica, and I remembered it. Do not wait for your job to make a career plan for you. Do you remember saying that?
Absolutely. And I stand by it 10 toes down.
Man, I had to get myself almost off the floor when you said that during that episode. I went back and looked at it. I was spinning around in the chair like, did she just say that?
People get their feelings hurt because they expect that. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Do not wait for your job to make a career plan for you. And so part of what today was, I think, is just an affirmation of that quote, right? Do not wait for your job to make a career plan for you. Begin to put together your plan and figure out, what are my steps and how should I move forward? How should I progress forward and all of that? And so this is really good. I want to invite you, and I see you there, your comment there. Caleb is watching us on social media. So thank you, Caleb, for being a part of the conversation today. Hopefully this was helpful. So listen, you can catch Jessica right there again on her website, jessicacanty.com. Check her out. She's also on social media. And then, of course, you can check me out at my website here, ChristopherJHarris.com. For those of you that are in ministry and you're looking for ministry jobs or ministry career resources, you can also check out diversechurchjobs.com. And our commitment is to help connect you with the right place and connect the right place. So we're excited to have you with us again today. Again, this is Callings and Careers. Multiple times a month, Jessica and I jump into this space and help in any way that we can to help you discover your calling and develop in your career. And particularly for those of you that are people of faith, we want you to flourish in your faith in the workplace. We want you to flourish in your faith in the workplace. All right. We'll see y'all the next time. Have an amazing day, everybody. Jessica, you hit it out of the park again. See y'all the next time, everybody.